I find that I get a lot of questions, and a lot of questions come up that we can't predict in IEP meetings. So even if we go over the basic rules, basic expectations, how to write a goal, but we talk about things such as FAPE and LRE and violations, so the question becomes, what is a violation? Can you do this? Can you do that? So at any rate, I thought I'd go over a few of the questions that I've seen over the years come up, that I get asked. I get a lot of emails with a lot of questions. So let me start with a basic one here. How many goals must an IEP have? Great question. There's no specific number. Now, you need to have one annual goal at least, because there has to be essentially some need for the IEP. So any IEP with no goals is going to be problematic, but there's nothing that says you have to have 3, 4, or 5. No specific number, and then you do need to have one for the functional performance if there's a need. But let's say you have a learning disabled kid, socializes great, everything's well, integrates fine, no major issues. You don't need to have a functional performance goal for that. So just to know, there's no specific number indicated in IDEA. Another one, do I need goals for related services? This comes up a lot, and the answer is generally speaking no. You're not required, if you have a related service, to have a goal for that service. Transportation can be considered a service. You don't have to have a goal about successfully transporting from home to school. And there are a lot of things that we do that are considered related services or supports. Now, there can be situations where it's appropriate and necessary, and I think about the Amy Rowley case we discussed for FAPE going back to 1982. And I think of a child who is deaf who has an interpreter, and in core content classes, it may be appropriate to address that in a goal. So again, generally speaking, there's no specific statutory requirement, but there could be situations where it is appropriate. FAPE and the IEP. So again, one of the major areas where we have IEPs contested is under the FAPE requirement, the Free and Appropriate Public Education Principle. And so if a school has a program with no peer-reviewed research, can the school be in a violation of FAPE? So this one's really interesting, and I need to carefully explain it. So schools don't generally walk around having files with peer-reviewed research. And I'm not recommending that you go out and find research for everything you do. However, this is where, and there have been some cases where it's been found that a lack of peer-reviewed, it was a violation of FAPE, but it's generally speaking when somebody wants a different service and there's an argument of the current service and whether there's a support for it. But where my primary concern comes in for schools is, let's say there's a parent, you have a child, behavioral issues, significant, they're getting in trouble, there's discipline, it's becoming contentious and difficult. And the program that the school has developed, it's developing essentially on what they've always done. And if the parent comes in and says, well, can you tell me the research base? Can you tell me your basic approach? There are a number of schools in the United States that I believe could not articulate what their general pedagogy is for the program. That's where I think you can be in trouble if your programs are contested. You should be able to talk about the basic basis for your programs, for your systems, and where I'm not saying you have to be sitting with the research in a file, you do need to look at what you're doing and ensure it's best practices, ensure your program is research-based, and just know that it'll always be defendable if ever challenged. And I think it's a very good practice to do that. And the answer is yes, it has been and it can be a violation of FAPE for not having any peer-reviewed literature. So interesting.